My name is Lou, and I'm with the San Jose Cooperative Brew Pub.
Hi, my name is Shanta, and I'm from Other Avenues Food Cooperative in San Francisco.
And the Other Avenues Food Cooperative, which is, you've been since 1974?
Yes, we have been there since.
And you dealt with this issue of being sort of a combination of a consumer cooperative and a worker cooperative. Describe how that works.
Right, we had been consumer cooperative / worker managed cooperative for a number of years until from 74 to 1999. And how it worked is we had people buy a membership card and they can vote to elect a board. Now the board was composed of 4 workers and 3 non-workers. That way we made sure that the worker still has the where the buck stops. We had monthly meetings, board meeting where we brought in the concerns of the workers as well as the community members who were not workers brought in the community concerns. So there was a good rapport. It just happens that there wasn't that much governing input from the members who were not workers, and they only jumped in as far as taking more initiative to govern when we were in trouble.
My initial question is, when you were first incorporated, were you first incorporated as a hybrid co-op, or were you first incorporated as a consumer co-op and then added a employee ownership component to it?
So we were first incorporated from a club. It was a food buying club. So it was just a store, didn't really have any status. We tried to get nonprofit, and we knew that that was almost impossible. So I would say sometimes in the 80s, we actually wrote a set of bylaws, and the bylaws specified that we were hybrid. However, we would never really dealt to incorporate it as such. So we were running as a hybrid, but we were not incorporated
Not
as
officially
a
incorporated.
at a
Okay.
co-op at all.
All right.
The only time we officially incorporated as a co-op is after we became worker cooperative.
All right.
But nevertheless, we did work as a good, successful hybrid model.
All right. See, that's different than what we started.
Okay.
And we started with the idea of being a consumer worker hybrid.
Right.
But the articles of incorporation and our bylaws now speak only to the consumer co-op component.
I see.
And we need to transition now our bylaws from being a consumer only to a consumer worker hybrid.
Right. Unfortunately, all these bylaws in California are written one way or the other because the worker model, worker ownership model, is actually a hybrid itself. Tim would tell you more about it. Mm-hmm. It's a hybrid itself of the consumer co-op and the service-making co-op, like artists who make pictures and sell it, right? So it's a producer co-op. It's a hybrid of producer co-op and consumer co-op. So now the only way you can incorporate it is either as worker cooperative or consumer cooperative. But you can function as a hybrid. So what I suggest that you ought to do is leave your bylaws as brief as possible, as short as possible, calling yourself consumer co-op, but then when you write your policy book, make sure that your workers have a lot of business rights.
The model that we're trying to emulate is Black Star Brew Pub out of Austin, Texas.
Right, heard that.
And their bylaws are very specific about being a consumer as well as having a workers' assembly component.
Right.
Now, that may be permissible under Texas law.
Exactly, but not here, yeah.
All right. And so what we're facing is how do we formalize that structure and still be within the framework of the laws of the state of California?
Right. In my opinion, when we did that, when we were hybrid, and the way it worked is that we spelled out to our consumer members that a lot of the business decisions would be made by workers because it is the workers who actually do all the work. and they didn't mind it. So it was in our policy that we.
Okay, so that's where the hybrid nature lives. It's in your policy book. It's not in your bylaws,
Right.
and it's not in your articles of incorporation.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the way it used to be. Of course, it's changed since
Yes.
we became worker owner.
Okay.
Yeah.
So-
and strangely, after we became worker owner, their role hasn't really been different. We sell them a red card, which is a frequent shopper card, and they continue to support us by buying the card and getting the discount. Some of them even think that they're still a member, even though we keep telling them there is no membership except the workers are the only members. But they still give us the same advice that they used to. So there hasn't been really any functional difference between how they helped us then, how they support us then how they're supporting us now.
What was the impetus for the conversion to consumer-owned? Excuse me, for employee-owned or worker-owned?
There were two impetus. One was, at that point, we were really investing more and more into workers because prior to that, there were a lot of volunteers. So we were hiring more and more workers, and we were realizing how effectively or more effectively we were being run. So we wanted to have a volunteer program, and I'll talk to you about that later when and how we shut that down. We wanted to have a volunteer program, but we wanted to make sure that the workers have the ultimate decision-making authority, how to run from like our operation to how much we spend our wages to other minor details.
So there must be a very large component of teaching new workers as they enter the co-op
Oh, absolutely.
what the culture is, what their role is,
Yes. There's ongoing
getting them acclimated to this kind of an
Definitely.
economic environment.
Definitely, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
learning about that, and
Yeah.
it's been refreshing to have your pearls of wisdom.
Right. Well, this is not to do with even hybrid thing, but when we ended our volunteer program, we were so afraid. It was like one of the worst week I had ever had at Other Avenues. Not only we felt like, it's like your parents died. Even if you don't live with your parents, when your parents die, you just kind of are out there naked, right?
Yes.
So we were feeling this loss, and they weren't supportive, share the similar loss. They were angry at us
How interesting.
because they wanted to continue to work. They wanted to continue to volunteer. It took us a long time, even after we gave them a lifetime discount. Some of the people who had worked with us for like 5, 10, 15 years, we gave them a lifetime discount without having to work. They were still angry at us. So it took us a long time to repair that relationship, to prove that we could still connect as a community co-op. And they came back to us.
They came back.
They started to shop. In fact, they even loaned us money to buy the building. Just like 2 years later.
2 years later. All right.
So it was a
Congratulations on having a successful transition.
thank you.
And we're all hoping, we can't wait to go to the San Jose Brew Pub when it opens.
In 2 years, we hope we have a place.
Right? Looks like you're planning well.
I guess one of the things that has been amazing to me becoming involved in the co-op is first of all, heterogeneity of the people that are drawn to this. I guess loving beer crosses all social lines, all
Definitely,
class
yes.
lines.
And it's so popular right now.
Oh
right?
yes,
Oh, yes.
And the craft brew movement, of course,
Oh, my God.
is the perfect platform
Right.
by which to launch this,
Right.
because it's coming into its own. Beer sales in the United States by the major
Right.
big three brewers is
Right.
flat. Craft brew, 15% growth last year. So it's an evolution and almost a revolution in the
Amazing.
brewing industry. So I think we're coming to a good point in time
Right.
to launch this. And secondly, San Jose downtown area has been reborn over the last 15 to 20 years, and it is a destination.
Wonderful.
And so with those two things
Right.
and the talent that we have with the people who live in Silicon Valley,
Right?
I don't see how we can fail.
And the money they have.
Well, interestingly enough, the investors that will be needed to support purchases will not have voting shares.
Oh, I see.
No, the only voting shares will be the owner members and ultimately the employee members.
Okay.
Investors, yes, they'll get a return on their investment,
Right.
but they do not control
Right.
the corporation.
Right, right. But you will have good clientele who will have money.
Well, the beauty of it is that with 3,000 members, we have a built-in clientele.
Right, right. But it'll be open to non-members as well, right?
Of course. But when we open our doors, all we do is tell all of our member owners, we're open, please come and drink beer and eat food.
And bring friends, right?
Everybody's invited, and we'll let you know.